When I first started expanding my horizons as a gamer from sports games and Fortnite to single-player games back in 2020, the first generation I turned to was the Xbox 360 and PS3 generation. It was just starting to be 2 console generations behind at that point, so it was dirt cheap to buy for those consoles, which was perfect because I had no motion. So for the first year or so of this era, I played through many different games on my Xbox 360 and PS3, taking recommendations from different YouTubers I had watched throughout the years. And one of those recommendations was the first Bioshock, and Bioshock 1 is often considered to be the best in the series among fans. But in case anyone's not familiar with what Bioshock is, I'll give a quick rundown. The Bioshock series is a trilogy of first-person shooters which were released during the 7th generation of consoles. They are defined by the plasmid system, which allows you to use a multitude of different superpowers in your offhand while you're shooting with your right. This could be shooting fire, electricity, or bees. This gameplay is supplemented with some of the best stories and settings in gaming history. Bioshock 1 follows your protagonist suffering a plane crash and being forced to traverse Rapture, which is an abandoned underwater city, in order to survive. The story takes some crazy twists and turns from there, my favorite being... Don't worry, this is a spoiler-free video. My first time playing Bioshock 1 was Christmas Eve of 2021. I finished it really late that night and got sick, and it was pretty hype. I look back on that night very fondly. And at the time, I remember vividly liking the game, but not a crazy amount. However, in years since, I've become more and more enamored with the world and the story. This is a game that, in my opinion, benefits greatly from having a bit of context on what's actually happening. This context is meant to be garnered from the audio logs throughout the game, which my 15-year-old self did not care to pay attention to for some reason. But after I was filled in by YouTube experts in following weeks after playing the game, I came to appreciate it so much more. And so, in the big 2025, my biggest complaint with Bioshock 1 is that the gameplay is kinda lacking. The plasmids in Bioshock 1 are slow, mainly because you need to switch from the guns to the plasmids, which is not the case in the other games. In the other games, it's a lot more fluid. This makes the entire game feel a bit more clunky than it should, and thus not as much fun. I still love this game though. I think it has the best story out of the trilogy, and arguably the greatest setting ever in a video game. Like seriously, Rapture is beautiful. And so, Bioshock 1 is a 9 out of 10 game for me, and is number 43 in my top 100 games list, as of right now. The first Bioshock is a certified UNC classic, and in my opinion, one of the best out of that group. However, this is where a lot of people will tell you that the series fell off with Bioshock 2. Bioshock 2 tries its hardest to recapture what made the first Bioshock so special, with that being Rapture. This sounds great on paper, but there are some big problems with this. After Bioshock 1, you already know everything about Rapture that you would really need to know. There's not really as much mystique there. Additionally, you play as a Big Daddy in this game. Wait, have I not mentioned the Big Daddy yet? The series mascot after all? They're basically vegetables in giant mech suits. But you play as one in this game, which makes the presence of other threats much less threatening because you're kinda OP. So if you combine both the lack of mystery from Rapture and how OP your character is, Bioshock 2 loses a lot of its aura. It's not as scary at all. And not only that, but the story is also a big step down from Bioshock 1, and I can't even remember much about it actually. Let me go look some stuff up real quick. Oh yeah, it's stupid. And if you heard me say all that, you might think I don't like this game, but I still love Bioshock 2. But why? And that is because it's fun as shit to play. It fixed every issue the original game had, gameplay-wise. You can now dual-wield a plasmid and a gun at the same time. Also, because you're playing as a Big Daddy, you are OP and can mow through enemies. For years, Bioshock 2 had my favorite FPS gameplay, and that was until I played Titanfall 2. But it's still number 2. Back in the day when Bioshock 2 came out as well, I heard it had a fire multiplayer mode. Now, it is important to note that when this game came out, I was 3 years old, so I wasn't really, playing Bioshock 2 in its prime, so I can't speak definitively about this, but I have heard it as a fire multiplayer mode. So all in all, I love Bioshock 2 despite its flaws. It's a fantastic game just like the first one, albeit for completely different reasons. And I have it an 8 out of 10, and it's my number 66 game of all time right now. For those of you out there who are familiar with the Bioshock series, you will know that there's one game left. It is easily the most divisive in the series. Some hate it with a passion. Some love it. I happen to be someone who loves Bioshock Infinite, and some of you who know me to an extent might know me for this video. The top 10 Xbox 360 games. And number 1 is Bioshock Infinite. And people did not like that placement, to say the least. I made an entire video on my second channel reading comments from this YouTube short. And yes, I do have a second channel. Please subscribe and watch. It's mainly for just aimless yapping about games if you're interested in that. But that's besides the point. Bioshock Infinite is my favorite game on the Xbox 360. Now, what is Bioshock Infinite and why is it so divisive? Bioshock Infinite is the third Bioshock game and was released in 2013. It follows a completely new setting and new story with new characters while retaining the same gameplay structure of the first two games. Infinite is one of the most critically acclaimed games of the 2010s, having a big ol' 93 on Metacritic, but it's often hated by gamers in general. Why? I won't get into the weeds of it, but a general recap is that the game handles themes of racism and religious extremism, and people think that those themes were botched and were done in a distasteful way. I disagree with that, but I'll leave that up to interpretation. My opinion of the game is that it's a lot of fun to play, it's the best looking game to come out of that generation, and the story's pretty mind-blowing. It's one of the most well-rounded games I've ever played. I often break down two games into their two biggest components, oftentimes being the story and the gameplay for a single player game. I even did that in this video. Where Bioshock 1 lacks in gameplay, 2 makes up for it, and where 2 lacks in story, 1 makes up for it. Well, Infinite takes the best from both worlds. The story is a thriller from front to back, one of the most what-the-gamer endings ever. In my humble opinion, the ending is brilliant. And standing tall right next to the fantastic story, the gameplay is also phenomenal. It plays a bit different from 1 and 2, with the addition of the skyhook making you a lot more nimble than the other two games. In terms of just being fun, I think it's between the other two games. A few years ago, on my ranking every game I've ever played video, I had this as number 7, all time. I don't have it that high now, but it's pretty high up there, number 18. And oh yeah, I can't forget to mention Elizabeth. Great character and was innovative in many ways. So what's the conclusion to draw from this video? Bioshock is one of the greatest series in video game history. Each game is brilliant, yet distinct. Each one excels in different areas, leaving you with a series that is the only one that I would truly recommend playing every game that it has to offer. My ranking of them goes 2, then 1, then Infinite. With that being said, make sure you all stay tuned. New videos are on the way soon as I am no longer employed.